Hey guys, it's me, Eric, and today I'm giving you my top 5 tips for passing your realty exam. Let's go. Tip number 1, pick the right course for you. There are so many different realty courses available out there. You can do online, in person, you can choose to do local, you can do courses that take several weeks to complete. You can do courses that take a very short amount of time to complete. It really depends on what you're looking for. You can tailor this to your specific personality style and your needs. For me, I wanted something that I could do quickly and I could do local. I had initially signed up for an online course and found that I really was craving that classroom environment, someplace where I could reach out to a teacher and say, I have questions about this specific item. Can you help me with this? So that was really important to me. I also knew that I wanted to get it done quickly. This was really important because I have kids. I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time sitting in a classroom waiting to start making money. If you have some more time on your hands, it may be easier to study this material over a longer period of time and give your brain more time to digest it. It was pretty stressful going through a class. I did a 4-day course, essentially. It was called a flex program, and it was pretty much all I did for those 4 days. So I don't know that that's for everybody, but it was for me. Tip number 2, supplement your training. By supplementing your training, you are going to increase your chances of passing the exam, which is really the point of taking that class. So in my class, I took a great local class with a company called Mosley Dickinson, and they had amazing real-world examples that really helped me to get the most out of that class. Some things that I thought might have been improved upon, though, is that they did not have a whole lot of devices, like memorization devices. Things like to help you remember all the different types of tenancy, all the fiduciary responsibilities. Using a memory device can be really helpful just to keep it in your brain and make it a little bit stickier. You'll often see memory devices when you're in school. These are really helpful. Another thing that I did that was really good is I recorded myself. So I did audio recordings of the correct answers from my study guides. And I would listen to this in my free time. That way it was kind of a passive way that I could be studying. You might find that you're getting a little overwhelmed in the days leading up to your exam, and being able to step away and simply have a recording that you can listen to is just going to be a great way to do some passive studying, where you're not having to sit there actively in a book, taking study practice tests, things like this. So I highly encourage you to record yourself and just do that on your phone and be able to play it back when you need it. Also for me, because I had to drive 3 hours to take my final state exam, that was great because I could listen to that in my car. And the whole time I was drilling in all of the topics that I knew I wanted to work on. Tip number 3, study what's right. One thing that is really compelling when you first get all of your materials and you have these practice tests is, I want to go in and take my practice test and see how well I did. And then what happens is we end up remembering what's right, but then we also remember what we put wrong on the test. So I would highly encourage you to go through, check if they have some hot sheets, things like this, resources that are in your study guides, and then use those to help you remember what's right. I took the test one time. I wrote down all my correct answers, but then I turned those into statements, and that was what I used on my recordings. And then I drilled those statements and basically turned those into a hot sheet for me, that anything I had missed, I wrote down the correct thing, and that helped me to not remember that incorrect answer that I thought was right the first time. So I highly encourage that. That's a great tip, because we are so likely to remember what's wrong if we just continue taking the test over and over again. You're going to remember the wrong answer that you put last time. So, tip number 4, take the practice exams. There are way too many questions on this test for you to not be taking a practice exam. You need to learn the nuances of the test. In one of my earlier videos that I'll put up here, I talked about an example of a question that I had. I don't remember if it was actually on my exam, but it was definitely on my practice exam. And it was, how often do you need to renew your sales license in the state of Virginia? The answer is every 2 years. That was not an option. The test question was actually quizzing me on whether or not I knew the correct term, which honestly, you don't have to know to follow the guidelines and know the law. The questions gave you like every year, every 5 years, biannually or biennially. And it was a trick question that basically was trying to trick you to choose biannually instead of biennially, a very uncommon word. I find that most people I talk to this question about did the same thing that I did, and they're putting the wrong answer to that. So that's not so much testing on whether or not you know that it's every 2 years, as much as it is testing whether or not you know what biennially means. So by taking these practice tests, you're going to be more aware of these kind of tricks that you might see. It's also going to make you more comfortable with those. And some of the answers that you know really well, you're going to be able to get those really fast, and you can move on to some that maybe you have to draw out diagrams or think more carefully about in order to get those correct. So I highly encourage that you take use of any free practice tests that you might find on the web. I think your school, if it's a good school, whether it be online or in person, they're going to provide you with some practice tests. So definitely use those. Tip number 5 is get plenty of sleep. This is so important. Your brain needs sleep. If you're not getting good sleep the night before because you're up cramming for that test, it's really going to do more harm than good. Make sure that you go to bed in plenty of time. Literally every realtor that I've spoken to in the days, weeks, and months going up to my exam told me this tip. They said, do yourself a favor, make sure you get plenty of sleep before the test. It's going to be super important that you're well rested going in so that you're not going in sleepy and feeling drowsy on the day of the exam. Bonus tip, use caffeine responsibly. So I found going through those 4 days and taking all of those exams, I was taking more caffeine than I normally would. I'm somebody who's a little sensitive to begin with, and I was like, well, I want to make sure I pay attention in class, so I'd have some caffeine going into class. Then I'd study when I got home from class, and I'd have some caffeine to help me then, and then I'd wake up the next morning, I'd be feeling drowsy from, like, my brain would just be tired from everything I had done the day before, and so I'd have caffeine then. So I found that after I was done with the exam, I had just, like, I had to step away from caffeine for like 3 or 4 days and go cold turkey altogether, because it kind of snuck in. I just found myself using it when I was tired. So be mindful of how much caffeine you're using, and just, you don't want that to make you feel worse going into the exam, or feel like you have to take a ton of coffee or energy drinks or whatever, just to be able to function normally when you get into the exam. So that's my bonus tip for you, is use your caffeine responsibly. Guys, I want to thank you all for joining me for my 5 tips for passing your realty exam. I hope that these realty exam tips have been helpful for you. Please check out some of our other videos and enjoy. See you soon. you.